Welcome to Season 2 of the Pull Hook Golf Podcast. Here's your hosts, Matt Cook and Bobby Brown. And welcome back, everybody, to episode number 25 of the Pull Hook Golf Podcast. I've got my co-host here, Mr. Bobby Brown, PGA Tour Caddie. I am your other host, Matthew Cook, mini tour dropout, as I like to refer to myself as. And with that said, let's touch upon what we're going to talk about on this episode in particular. We've got the Tour Championship that just wrapped up this past weekend, so we're going to be recapping everything that went on there. We're also going to touch on the Korn Ferry Tour, and Bobby's got the inside track there. He follows these guys very closely. He's got his son caddying for Pearson Cootie out there, one of the top guys out there on the Korn Ferry Tour, so we're going to get some insights there. And then I want to talk about a guest that we actually had on not that long ago, Mr. James Hahn, because a lot of the same sentiment that he shared with us on that episode, I do want to get into a little bit, because I mean, it's now hit the mass media, right? As far as like, I mean, I think it was even said that he was a dissenter, so we'll get into that topic, and then we'll obviously talk about our favorite topic, being the defectors to LIV Golf. There were 6 of them that headed over there, including a couple replacement players, so we'll definitely dive into that. And then, is there a potential legal issue upcoming for Tiger and Rory's new venture? So we'll dive into that towards the end of this episode. But Mr. Bobby Brown, let's kick it off with the Tour Championship recap. I mean, my God, Rory McIlroy, you are a terrifying son of a bitch coming down that stretch.
He's an excellent golfer, isn't he?
He really is.
I just want everybody to know I wasn't there. I had to watch it all on TV. I barricaded myself upstairs for about 3 hours. They had a couple delays, and I actually had to come downstairs and be a parent for about 38 minutes, a couple days. So, man, it was exciting, right?
Rory was.
It's almighty. What a leaderboard. I mean, Rory. Man, I was touting people on Sung-jae. I remember I was saying, I'm like, Sung-jae's super comfortable at that course. As soon as he gets his shit together upstairs.
He blew it, though, man. I'm telling you, he blew it.
Pressure's a tough thing. I mean,
it's a bitch.
I know what you're talking about. He made the double on the backside, but he bounced back with a couple quick birdies, which
I'm even talking 18, Bobby.
Oh, I know, that was a pretty simple bunker shot. I mean, it's funny. I've been there a bunch before, and on that pin, if you don't have a perfect number, that's where you miss. You don't miss left where Scottie was. It's tough. It's a pretty simple bunker shot. I don't know. He kind of bent down over. Did you see? And he was looking at the sand, and I mean, sometimes that's legit. Sometimes it's kind of bullshit where they're just like, oh man, I'm one of the best players in the world. I could have possibly made a mistake under pressure, with $18 million on the line. But he hit a good putt. He just didn't a bunker shot, which surprised me because I know him. I know how hard he works on his short game, and he'll go into a bunker for, 45 minutes to a little over an hour sometimes every week you're at a new course just to get a feel for the sand. So I think it's just pressure, man. And I think Scottie's, I think Scheffler's shot, I mean, he was on tilt all day, though, really, wasn't he, after the last
2 days. I mean, he struggled up until the weather suspended play on Saturday. I mean, but what a gutsy performance, man, from Scottie Scheffler. Just hanging in. I mean, you could tell he didn't have it.
No, he didn't have it. He made 3. What did he do, man? He made 3 bogeys on the front, and Rory's putting the move on you. Everybody's stacking up close. There was separation. Early in the week. I'll tell you what, it was watching it on TV. It was different than I'm used to, because you're usually used to scores being pretty low on the first day, and then everything kind of just levels out as it firms up. But I think with the storms they got and everything like that, these guys were, they were throwing darts. They weren't playing much run out on the greens, and it was pretty much 18 million C-stick, hit stick, so
gotta get after it. I mean, it was soft. First 2 days you're playing live, clean, and play, so you're getting perfect lies in those fairways.
Best players in the hand, best players with the ball in their hand. I mean, come on, soft conditions, they're just going to eat it up. But hats off to Rory. I believe that's his 3rd one.
Yeah,
right?
3rd one, the most.
What about that? Caddie just made a cool $1.8 million in 1 week, Matt. Did you hear me, Matt? $1.8 million.
Man,
Jesus,
I
carrying his
should
golf bag, man.
I should have given up earlier on being a mini tour dropout and just gone and caddy. Gosh, what was I thinking, Bobby? Why didn't I know you back then?
There's other stories too that you don't want to hear about, and it's like $1,800 for the week. So it's all good. Sung-jae tied for second, a great performance. He looked like he kept his shit together out there. Like I said before last week, he's super comfortable there. Let's go over our picks. What were our picks?
Mine was Xander.
Yeah, you had Xander. You beat me.
I do want to talk about. No, I didn't beat you because
you did. Xander finished fourth. I had Cantlay. Remember, I was all Cantlay.
Yeah, that's right.
I was all Cantlay, and then and I was walking my walk too because I was the genius that gave the 3 heavy favorites as a trifecta, right?
Yep.
Xander, Cantlay, and Scheffler. And after day one, I think, most of day one, anyways, through 15 or 16 holes, I think some Cantlay made a bogey. They were like 1, 2, 3, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to hit the trifecta. This trifecta, if you bet $1, it's going to pay $2.80. Anybody could have picked that one, right? But
Xander surprised me though, and I do want to pick your brain because for how long you've been caddying for, have you seen that it's pretty tough when you go out and just shoot 62, 63, and then you come back the next day and you just don't have that same contact, that same swing, and it kind of seemed unsettling for him on Saturday that he just didn't have it.
No, he didn't. You always relish when somebody's going Yahtzee 62, 63, or 64. But you always know going home that night that you're like, well, that's probably not going to happen 2 days in a row, especially on these, big boy golf courses, not something like, 30 under is going to win or something like that. It's just when those days are happening, Matt, as you know, you've been in the zone before. They're in the zone. Everything's falling on a perfect number. You can't mess the wind up to save your life. You can't miss radio green. Everything is just so easy. And then the next day you have a little bit of weight on your shoulders to back that up, and it just doesn't happen. We've always, I've had guys in that situation before, and you chuckle walking in the car and you'd be like, man, I hope we can shoot 200 tomorrow or 300 and stay in this thing, because it just doesn't happen very often. But it was a pretty good finish, wasn't it? Back and forth, that up and down Rory made, back left on 16 was just phenomenal. Just threw it up in the air. Thank God it hit the stick. It was probably going to go to the rough. And I don't think Scheffler hit the best bunker shot. Maybe he was feeling the pressure, and obviously he didn't play very good front side. They both hit pretty good shots in there in 17. You remember Scheffler semi-stuffed it. I think he hit to like 7 or 8 feet, but I've seen that putt before up the hole, behind the hole. The grip, TV doesn't do it justice. It slopes quite a bit from back to front, and it's a sketchy putt where you just kind of get going. And I think he misread it because it looked like it lagged right a little bit.
Bobby, it didn't lag right. That thing missed by a foot. That was high and outside, my friend.
I was going to give it a cup. You said a foot. So
even Dan Hicks is sitting there trying to figure out what to say. He's like, he missed that one.
Hey, I think I saw him give Teddy a little look too. You know what I mean? And sometimes those looks aren't really good, aren't really positive looks. And what do you got? But 2 pretty good greens readers.
Yeah, I mean, Teddy's pretty solid after the abuse that he took from Bubba, so he's got to be pretty on.
Honestly, do you think he shoved it a little bit? I thought maybe he shoved that on a little bit.
100%. That thing was wide open and coming through. He just fanned it. If you could shank a putter, that was it right there.
Yeah, for sure. And then he had that beautiful drive on 18. I think he had 4 iron in, and obviously that's the hole right behind you. Obviously he mishit it because that first bunker in play is probably, off my memory, he's 16 or 18 yards short, but it's still, he looked like he was on the upslope. That's still kind of a dump it on and let it chase kind of bunker shot.
He did that a couple times over the course of 4 days. He got a little thin with his bunker shots. It wasn't thin, it was a little bit close to the ball in terms of the impact, and when you get a little bit too close, that's what happens.
Pressure, isn't it? Don't you think?
It is
pressure, especially when you're chasing, well, not really chasing, but you've given up the lead, and and you're just having that day, and it's not going good. It's not going good. But stack leaderboard: Rory, Scheffler, Xander. How about Max Homa making his debut?
Max Homa
5th. I always say this caddy wise. I think Fifth pays like $1 million or something. So that's 80 grand for his guy, Joe
Can I
Grant.
just say, I have a damn crush, like a man crush, hardcore man crush on Max Homa. That
How do
dude's
you,
a stud, man. He's an
how do
absolute stud.
Yeah, the Cal golf teams turned out some good ones for sure. It's funny. Me remember I was telling you way back when I worked for a guy who was on tour a couple times named Peter Tomasulo, who was a
Oh
stud
yeah.
All-American, I believe, out of Cal. And I want to say they won nationals, or maybe he got snubbed for being an All-American. And I remember when Max turned and a guy who won John Deere, who's got his car back from the KFT this year, Michael Kim. You probably know that name, Michael Kim.
Oh yeah.
And they were two studs at Cal. And I asked Pete, like shortly after they turned pro, I go, Max Homa or Michael Kim, right? And he goes, oh, it's not even close. It's Max Homa, you know. And you know the
Wow.
story. Kim was pretty solid all the way
Yeah.
up, was getting better, won John Deere. And then Max just kind of, you know, his path was totally different, right? He was a stud. He was a superstar coming out of college, but he had to find his way. And I think his big thing is he tells people it's all attitude on the golf course, right? Like how hard can you not be on yourself is going to reap the benefits of success out here, you know, 9 times out of 10. That's for sure. So I got a man crush on him too. He's the coolest
Yeah.
guy.
He
Huge
really is. He's
positive,
got that
and
swag.
real, dude. He's real, right? He like
Yeah.
talks to you like real. He's so cal, bro. Just like me. Of course he's real. And his
And
man
he's
joke,
styling. You style out there. I mean, shit. When I started watching some of the PGA Tour live, which sometimes can be a little bit of punishment, but I'm looking for you and Troy out there, especially
yeah,
on like the featured holes, right? Because I
yeah.
know you're gonna hit those
Oh,
featured
yeah.
holes, and I see you out there, and I'm like, damn, Bobby, you got the rope hat on. You
I
got your Nike or
know.
Max
Oh,
90s, like
totally.
just
Hey,
crushing it.
bro, I was thinking about that today, but you got to represent, right? The whole caddy stigma of the drunk dude stumbling out of the bar wearing the pants that are 2 or 3 days old and the shoes that you're like, how long you had those shoes for? I mean, some of us take a little, I don't want to sound like a dick, but a little pride in how we look or how we represent the guy that we're looking for. I mean, you got to look, you know, looking good, feeling good,
You
man.
got to,
You know,
yeah.
looking good, feeling good. And you, plus, you know, I'm a shoe hooker
I know,
too.
same here, man.
I always got to have stylish kicks. I was, you know, when I was with Dustin, I got all the Adidas shoes I want. I'm like, how can these guys wear Nikes? Nikes are so, you know, and then that came to an end, all the free shit. And then I started scoping around with Nikes and worked for some Nike guys. And I'm like, man, these shoes are pretty good. It's just, I mean, honestly, the truth for me is I just got to buy a size up and find the right one. So right now, I say this every year. Right now, I'm currently wearing the best caddy shoe money can buy, and it's the Nike Air Max SC. You can get them at
Oh,
Dick's Sporting Goods for $75 to $89, depending on the fresh colorway. I
can't
go
beat
for
that.
89. But randomly once in a while, if you got the Dick's Sporting Goods app, they're going to flash you this flash sale that goes on and you can pop them for like 50, 60, 65. I did damage last week to stock up for this coming
There
season.
you go. There you go. You got to.
Yeah, yeah. So where were we anyways? Okay, let's talk about some other guys. Um, uh, I was feeling guilty because I was telling somebody, I know there's a couple dudes on the air that'll bet a 20 spot going on what we say. And I was telling them, bet against Hideki, right? Bet he's not comfortable there. He told Sung-jae one year in front of me, he's like, oh, don't ask me for anything. I don't like this place. And he ended up finishing 11th, but he didn't play the very good the first day. So I'm curious, whoever these $20 bettors are, that they're going to probably hit me up within the next 24 hours and tell me I did good or I did bad. So I probably did bad because he ended up finishing 11th. Spieth went for a little 5 under on
Not
Sunday.
bad. Not bad.
Just to let him know what's up with Colin Morikawa right now. He can't do much, can he? Finished 21st or something like that. Still made 700 grand
Yeah, I
probably.
mean, he was still there, right?
Yeah. John Rahm had a tough Sunday. Is it the kid fat? Is it the baby factor?
You know, you
He's
you
got
brought
two.
this up, and
Yeah,
it
he's got
certainly
two.
could be. And
Yeah,
Homa's gonna have to deal with that next year.
yeah, yes, he is. But he seems more loosey goosey to me, though, doesn't he? To you, like he just SoCal, bro. He just kind of chills with it and rolls with it, and whatever comes his way. He's probably a been there, done that guy now, but nobody's really a been there, done that guy when that Bambino comes into the casa for the first time.
Touche.
Cam Young, Cam Young, a little disappointing. I think he finished 19th or 20th.
And he was striping it too, heading into East Lake, and then all of a sudden,
shit, he always stripes it, man. God, he always stripes it. But I will tell you what, for I'm gonna give him him a 1 year pass because he's gonna be back to this thing probably 13 or 14 times. I imagine he's very PGA-esque, but it's a quirky golf course if you've never been there before. Like, I wouldn't say it's Pete Dye, but the angles of the fairways are quirky. You know, like number one, it's very even hard to, unless you've been there a bunch, you're not super confident where the left cut is and the right cut is, and that goes all through the golf course. And you get up to, here's a hole that nobody knows about. 14 is really super elevated. It's probably a 500-yard par four, plays 20, 30 yards down off the hill, and it bends right, but you don't really see the landing area, you know, so you're kind of guessing using the tree lines, and it's just a sneaky, tough, quirky driving golf course for sure. So we'll give Cam Young we'll give him a pass, you know.
Yeah.
What's up with Colin Morikawa right now?
I know, and then the putter too.
Yeah, he showed a couple rounds of life. I think maybe at the BMW or something where he was close to the lead, and he made a big number somewhere and backed it up with a few bogeys.
I think he made a 10, if I'm not mistaken. He dunked two. He dunked two in the pod in front of the green with a wedge in his hand.
There's some I didn't think I'd hear tonight.
Yeah,
one of the best players in the world making a 10, but
it was his highest score on the PGA Tour ever.
Oh, Jesus, that could be a record for high score. I know Kevin Na made like a 17 or 18.
Yeah. That record's safe with Kevin Na.
I think Si Woo made a 10 in Memphis last year on that hole. I was telling you, Troy tripled late 14 over there. I think Si Woo made a 10, but I can tell you exactly how Si Woo makes a 10. Drop ball, water, drop ball, water, drop ball, water, 5-putt. That's
about what Morikawa did on that hole. There was two that went in.
I guess I was going to say that he's kind of, I wouldn't say he's fell off the map because he's Colin Morikawa and he's, you know, two-time major champ. But I don't think he's playing like the Colin Morikawa that we have seen, obviously, in the past. Because every time he throws up a good round, I read something on social media or an interview that he did where he's like, oh, I got away from the cross-handed punting, or, oh, I'm playing the draw, or, oh, I went back to the fade. And that just tells me in quotations he's probably in no man's land. He's searching, right there, you know, which just goes to show you everybody that's pegging it this weekend that's trying to crack 80 or something like that. Searching is not, you're not the only one searching out there. Best in the world search, but on a weekly basis. So what we saw this last weekend, this last Sunday, especially the last 2 hours, it ain't nothing you're going to see on LIV. You know, you're just not going to see it. Nobody's finishing on the same hole, right? All that drama comes down to 18 at fucking East Lake. That's drama, you know, that clubhouse sitting in the background.
Well, hang on a second. So LIV on the last day redoes the groups to where the leaders are playing in the final group.
Well, the leaders are playing in the final group, but what about the guy that's possible?
Exactly.
That's shooting 6 or 7, that's finishing over on 12 or 13? That seems anticlimactic to me because you're usually within a 35-minute window of each other when you're trying to win a golf tournament. You know what I mean? 16, 17, and 18 or something like that. You're tracking each other. Almost everybody I know looks at leaderboards, especially on a Sunday with an hour and a half to go. So I think that's a little bit of the drama is going to be after that. But I'm also just going to be honest and say the field that they have for Boston is muy bueno.
Yeah, no, it's going to be good. I mean, it is disappointing to see some of the guys go, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But I do want to ask you about the format for the Tour Championship. Like, did this just kibosh the entire conversation? Like, it was kind of heating up towards as moving into the Tour Championship. And then you got the guys on the Golf Channel that were talking about potentially doing match play and this and that. And it's like, there is no great way to structure this. And you just saw that it wasn't a runaway by Scottie, that he could have ran away with it, but pressure is a hell of a drug. And when that starts to get at you and eat at you, and I actually heard in one of Scottie's interviews before we get to the format potentially changing, or if you think that it's going to change, but Scottie did mention one thing in an interview, and it just hit me, to where he said that learning to win under pressure is a skill, right? So once I heard that, I'm like, oh, you're thinking about it. Because if you're sitting there answering media questions and you come up with that response, oof, like that tells me that you're not entirely comfortable. And obviously he wasn't comfortable winning the Masters. He 4-putted the final hole. And then gosh, he hasn't looked super comfortable closing out events, and I think we kind of saw that. But at the same time, I don't think it was him choking by any means whatsoever. Please don't take it as that, because Scottie Scheffler just didn't have his A game, and he fought tooth and nail just to stay in it. And that was a real battle. But going back to the format change, I just had to add one little comment.
Well, I don't, nobody's really talked about it here in the last 48 hours afterwards. Obviously, there was talk about it from a couple players. John Rahm was a big guy on it. Cantlay said it needed to be changed, but nobody seems to know the secret answer. So I think they're going to tweak it. I mean, with this points thing and everything like that, you just can't have, I've been in it before where it's all done by points, and there's a lot of you never really know where you stand, which is great because you just put your head down and you keep playing. I mean, the obvious guys, the winners, know who it's going to be, but when you're moving around for the fourth, fifth, and sixth, which is a fucking hell of a lot of money these days and only going to get bigger, it made it weird. But I'm sure that that's a topic in the next meeting, and I'm sure that's been a topic for the last 9 days pretty much, at Ponte Vedra at headquarters. So we'll see how it goes. I don't ever see it going to match play. We already have that. I mean, I just don't see how it goes to match play, to be honest with you.
I would just love to see a match play major championship.
I would like to see a match play with like number 62 on the FedEx Cup list or something, I would like to see that field open up, we talked about it before, I don't know if you have enough daylight and everything to have 128 guys in the field, but it would be a great chance for America, the golfing world, to possibly find a average golfer that went Yahtzee for a week in match play and found his niche, and hey, who doesn't like an underdog in match play, right? Isn't that half the fun?
You gotta love it. You gotta love it. But what if we even added like a little, best out of 3 in match play setup? You get the top 4 guys, and I don't know. I mean, it's a long event at that point, but shit.
I just realized that Arizona is a cannabis legal state. When that comment, taking a gummy or something like that.
No, that comes later, Bobby. That puts me to sleep. That gets me ready for the next day.
72-hole stroke play. I don't know how you.
No, I'm just thinking of other sports, right? Basketball, but you're spot on. You can't really do it, which is why it hasn't.
I personally don't mind this format because the guys, we talked about it before, even when you start at even or something like that, and you go 5 or 6 the first day, and let's say the leader shoots even or 1 under, now you're 5 off the lead or 6 off the lead. And I think it's pretty good because, 27, 28, and 29, and 30 who get into the field, like, I don't even know what the names, but I'm going to throw out KH Lee as one of them. Those guys are stoked to be there, and I'm sure KH Lee never said starting at even par. If you would ask him BMW saying, "Hey, you're going to finish 28 or 29, you're going to start at even and give up 10 shots. Are you good with that?" He would have said, "Oh yes, sir. I'm so good at that. Thank you. In every major next year." So I think I like it.
Yeah, but what instead of doing? I kind of look at it this way: why isn't there a gap all the way down to 30? If you're giving the top guys strokes, right?
Yeah.
How is that fair between number 30
and
through?
20.
I mean, this goes to James Hahn's point of, listen, you guys are only looking out for the top guys. You're not looking out for the other guys that are lower in the PGA Tour, and like, we're still people that are participating in these events and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know. I've never, obviously I'm super close with James, and he says a lot of stuff, and he's not guessing on a lot of stuff he says. He's done his research, and he's weighed out options to his comments and that kind of stuff. But, wasn't James the only one that I just read a few days ago that was the only guy in that player meeting that voted against the new tournaments?
Yep.
Because James is, and James will sit here and tell you James is one of the average guys. I don't, hey, every average guy that's not, a top 20 or top 30 player, when these guys get catered to, or certain guys are in certain events and you're not, you can say 1 or 2 things. Most of them make the comments of like, it's it's good for the good guys and that kind of stuff, but play better. I mean, does that make any sense too? Play better? Yeah, some guys are always going to be better than you that are freaks. DJ's a freak, but you can always play better. I know.
Yeah.
Listen, I know James has a daughter at home and that kind of stuff, and working at your golf game 8 hours a day, it's not happening in his life right now. But JT sitting at home. Oh, and let me rephrase that. JT's probably never sitting at home, right? He doesn't have kids yet or anything like that, and he's on a mission to regain number one. And there's plenty of guys like that, and maybe that's why we see a slight lull in John Rahm's form with the kids at home. Maybe those 2 or 3 hours every single day and having that set schedule is not the number one priority. But I get where James is coming from. Totally.
I do too.
Troy knew about this whole thing too, and we talked about it, and he never made a negative comment or anything like that. I mean, guy made $2 million this year, and that's before sponsorship deals and that kind of stuff, and possible corporate outings, and not having to pay a hotel at Aria or MGM in Detroit. So I'm sure he's pretty happy with the way things are. But
and here's the opposite side of the argument from what James is saying, right? So the opposite end of the spectrum is that if you highlight the top guys and you put them all together and they're competing more people are going to be interested in those events, and then it's only going to raise the money across the board for the entire tour. Yeah. So in effect, it ends up helping all the guys from 20 down on tour, and that's how it's the trickle down effect, right? You hear about it in politics all the time and everything, and it's like, well, could it work? Yes. Does it work? Yes. I mean, we saw it with Tiger Woods. It's why guys are getting paid all this money now, because of the Tiger effect as to what happened. It's why the tour is as big as it is at this point. And I can see it from his perspective as well, that it's like, you guys are only catering to the top guy. So it's that double-edged sword, depending on how you look at it or what your lens is as to how you're looking from your perspective into it. So I get it from both sides. It's not something that is going to unfortunately go in James's favor. Like, if I had it my way, I would love to see that. And I mean, here's the other thing that's not really being talked about: is that $500,000 stipend to all the Korn Ferry guys, or is that just PGA Tour guys? Like, the way I read it,
it's to Korn Ferry guys too. But that's basically a draw on your earnings.
Correct. But let's say that you don't end up earning $500,000 on the Korn Ferry Tour. Yeah, you get to keep it, right?
Keep it. Yeah. So getting back to your and James's point, things are moving in the right direction then, right? And you get $5,000 for a missed cut now too?
You do, yep.
Yeah. Troy Merritt's going to miss 4 or 5 cuts this year. Hey,
you can still pay your caddy.
That's an extra $400. That's in a seedy place. In a seedy place without a caddy roommate. I mean, that's Motel 6, hombre. But every little bit adds up. So we're moving in the right direction, and it kills me to say it, but hats off to LIV a little bit. They jacked everything up. Hey, James Hahn's going to be playing in plenty of $17 million purses and $15 million purses next year. So
yeah, that's going to be pretty fun.
There's plenty of scraps. Troy Merritt made the greatest comment to me when he finished 3rd or 4th somewhere this year, where you're standing on the 18th green, somebody else was going to win. He looked at me and he goes, Bob, you know what? I go, what? He goes, I've been making a fine living out of picking up the scraps the elite leave around. And he turns around and he picks them off a collar. He goes, look, I just found $380,000 this week. And I just thought
that's pretty good. That's class good. Right there.
Put a chuckle on my face, and I'm like, fuck, we're not going to win because you don't have any chances. And I'm like, yeah, and 8% of that is not too shabby either. I'll take $30K for carrying a golf bag around for a week. So all things are good on the PGA Tour.
Well, let's talk about the Korn Ferry Tour. Take me down Korn Ferry path.
Yeah. So Micah's ex-boy that he made a pit stop with, David Lingmerth, pretty much destroyed. Well, I think he hadn't made a putt on 18, but he was winning handily all week. He was leading handily all week. And there's another golf course, like Eastlake. I was adjusting my Zen for all you Zen freaks out there. That's another course. This Ohio State course. It's kind of famous. You roll up to it. It's like the Buckeye tradition and everything. And all you think about is Jack Nicklaus in that area with all these great golf courses around there, not even counting Muirfield, honestly, Scioto, and there's a few of them. And, the golf shop there is really cool. And then you get out to the driving range of the putting green, you're like, yeah, it's okay, and then you look at the golf course and you're like, what the fuck is this? It's nothing special. And then you got to go play it. Right. And then all of a sudden, after like 18 holes, you're like, man, this ain't no Muni, right? And then you got to go play it again. And all of a sudden the respect goes. And it's another one that Jack's done a great design where it's quirky fairways, trying to get your angles off the tees. But my point is guys usually shoot 9 to 13 under there and win, from what I remember, because it gets extremely firm and fast. Every green has this trademark of Jack's where they run away the last 6 or 8 paces. They start turning down grain, even on Poe, there's slips back there. And man, they got 2 days of rain. My son was there. He's with Pearson Cootie. They missed the cut.
I know. I saw that. +3.
I think they're like I scanned down the list. I want to say they're tied for the low 40s or something like that. So what does that mean he has to do to get his card? For sure, a top 10, and then go to your nearest Catholic church and just pray your ass off that nobody's doing nothing, because there's a lot of praying going on that last hour and a half there. And there's always dramatics. I can tell you that much. But they say the rule of thumb is 200 points, right? So I think he's got maybe 80 or something. So he needs 120 points. A top 6, I think, gets you automatically 200 points. So that's the goal. All these guys that have finished 6th or better, or sometimes even 7th or better in the first 2. What a crapshoot, right?
It is.
And those guys are locked. And I was scanning down the top 25, and honestly, I'm like, Michael Gligic, this Henrik Norlander, Sean O'Hare, and S.Y. No, it's just like 21 out of the 25 guys have been back and forth to the tour numerous times. And that's what that event gets you, because 126 to 200 on the current PGA Tour FedEx Cup list gets those 75 guys in. They've been knocking heads with tougher competition. No disrespect to the KFT, because we know there's major winners out there, but there's 3 or 4 names there that, that would be fresh blood. I'm going to toot my own horn on some talent that lives like within a half a mile of me. His name's Kyle Westmoreland. Do you know this name?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so let me tell you about Kyle Westmoreland.
I didn't know he lived right up the neighborhood.
Yes, he does. He's right across the street, other side of the 526 right there at Daniel Island Club, and he plays. I never see him anywhere because he's been on the Korn Ferry Tour. But I'm going to tell you this little story about Kyle Westmoreland, and I hope I get it right. He's the decorated Air Force guy, if I'm not mistaken, right? Was in the Air Force, was a gifted golfer, did maybe 8 years. I'm just shooting from the hip on the numbers here. Maybe did 8 years, and he is built like a fucking thoroughbred. He is like 6'4", and he's like 240, and he is buffed, and he looks like a surfer. He looks like a surfer guy that was in the Air Force. And brother, he carries at 320 or 330. Like when he gets to the tour, and I hope it works out for him. I think he's like number 21 or 17 or something like that. He's like on the bubble of being locked. I've always
scary dude.
I've seen him enough that I've always said is that here's your perfect example of a freak super bomber talent that's got hands and can putt, that just the Korn Ferry Tour courses don't fit for him. And he's the kind of guy where you're like, when this guy gets to the tour, he's never going to leave for 15 years. And I don't want to toot my own horn again, but at the U.S. Open at Torrey Pines, I worked for Louis Gagne from LSU, and we were paired with Kyle. So I got to verify everything I thought. And guess what happened on Friday after about 6 holes? Kyle Westmoreland was leading the U.S. Open, and he had like 15 or 20 people following him around there going ape shit crazy every time he made a birdie. And I'm like, Louis like 6 over, 7 over, and I'm like almost like, oh my God, Kyle Westmoreland is leading the U.S. Open. And then we got to 13 or 14, and I think Kyle Westmoreland thought to himself, oh my God, I'm leading the U.S. Open.
Yeah,
he
it hits you.
Triple and a couple doubles or something like that, And I remember checking his wife out. She's this cute little blonde, and I'm thinking to myself, they probably don't. He signed a Callaway deal, but you're in the Air Force for 8 years. I never heard of him coming from a lot of money. So I'm like, okay, they're grinding, right? And this is a massive purse. And when he started making these numbers, I would like check her out, and I almost could see the look in her eyes where she's like, oh my God, that's $60,000 or that's 70, or maybe I'm talking shit, but I just sensed that. And which makes perfect sense.
It does. I mean, if you're coming from the military, you probably you don't have a ton of money coming out of there.
if I was Mrs. Kyle Westmoreland, I'd be thinking about that too. But
Hell yeah.
he had a horrible finish, and we came back out of the scoring office and that kind of stuff. And we were talking and everything like that. And I didn't really know what to say to him because he had this dejected look. And I just looked, I got like 3 inches from his face, and here's this big brick shit house, and here's this fucking sarcastic Caddie. And I just got right out of his face, and I go, brother, if it was easy, you'd have been fucking retired by now. And that sums up
Bobby,
golf.
what a line.
Yeah, and he started cracking up, and he gave me a little hug and everything. He goes, that's exactly what I needed to hear. And so he's my guy. He's my guy to watch, Kyle Westmoreland. Of course, my heart's with Pearson Cootie, and our favorite guest, Micah Fugit, is doing Scott Piercy, he works for, but Scott Piercy doesn't listen to this, a guest appearance for this S.H. Kim that I've been reeling about all year. And he's been playing fabulous. He has his card all locked up. So look for Micah to jump on the kimchi bus.
Interesting.
Starting in Napa. So I'll tell you a little bit about this golf course they got next week too, Matt. Evansville, Indiana. It's out in the middle of the nowhere, and it is a
I think I drove through there.
Well, I'm going to tell you what this golf course is. Trouble lurks on every hole. It's the perfect golf course for this kind of scenario, because water comes into play. You miss it left or right, you could lose the ball, could be unplayable. Really small greens. You get your share of wedges in there. And the pressure. And I've done it 3 or 4 times at that golf course. And every time I walk off that golf course, I'm like, man, Evansville, Indiana has got themselves a sick ass golf course. So that's going to be on starting Thursday. I'll be glued to the TV. I don't have YouTube. We had to take it off because my 9-year-old, on YouTube at 9 years old. Don't even get in, but I don't want to tell you what I did tonight. I had to go to 9-year-old Charleston Soccer Club practice, which I go Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. And I just shake my head in disgust and disappointment, because I'm like, we're not going to win a fucking game this year. There is no way. Why is my kid afraid of the ball? We've been doing this for 3 years.
It's because those damn participation rewards, Bobby.
Why am I spending $100 every Saturday morning with a local legend goalkeeper to give him goalkeeping training, and he can't jump fucking farther than 2 inches? I'm losing my shit out there. Is it bad that I want to scream and motivate at my kid during practices?
No,
because Lori always pinches me. She's like, don't say anything. And I just want to say, get fucking focused out there. You're faster than the rest of them. Listen,
my dad was like a Bobby Knight of softball girls. And literally, he would literally I don't even want to get into it. There's a great story, and he actually shared this one time with my fiance, because she wanted to know. She's like, Dale, you're so soft now. Like, you're such a nice guy. Like, Matt tells me all these stories of you being like Bobby Knight, and I want to know, like, give me a story. And so he goes, yeah. He's like, well, there was this one time that the girl, she wouldn't swing bat, so she goes up, and all of a sudden, strike 1. Strike 2, strike 3. Bat never leaves her shoulder. So the next time she gets up, my dad walks down and grabs the bat out of her hands and tosses it over the fence and goes, you don't need this because you're just going to stand there looking at it anyways. And so the umpire goes, sir, she needs a bat in her hand. He goes, she does not need a bat in the hand because she's not going to swing it. And so the guy left her alone. And
did I just hear a child abuse story? I can't do that shit anymore.
Yeah, you really can't anymore. But it was, I mean, and it taught a lesson, because guess what? Next time that girl got up, she ended up getting a hit, and she was one of the best hitters for the rest of the year. But this is what kids don't get anymore. They don't get that type of attention and that type of coaching, right? Now it's like, oh, good job, participation award. Oh, you get a participation award. That shit drives me nuts, Bobby, and I don't even have kids yet, but I've seen it way too much. I've seen it in kids' golf lessons. It's like, oh, yeah, you're doing so great, and it's like, you don't know what, it is soft. That's beyond the Kelly soft.
I got him after practice because he was dogging too, and I was a little harsh, and I'm not gonna lie, and Lori was with me, and she's like, no, she's just staring at me, and she adds her little 2 cents every once in a while, all the time, not every once in a while. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm just trying to, you know, I'm just trying to tell my son that if you give 100% in everything you do every day of your life, you're going to be healthy, happy, and successful. The key point being happy, but you got to just give the efforts. So I felt bad. So he's asleep now. So I wrote him this nice letter, this motivational speech. I'm a caddy. I'm qualified.
Hell
And
yeah, you are.
I put it under his glasses next to his nightstand. So
Oh, that's gonna
well,
make
you know
his
what's going to
day.
happen. But my 5 and 9-year-old share a room, so my 5-year-old's going to be like, with my letter, you know. And I'm like, no, I'm going to have to write another little Antichrist. Anyways, let's get back to
we digress, folks.
off week, honey. Off week, folks.
And anytime I start hearing about youth sports nowadays, I'm just like, you got to be shitting me. That's not the era that I grew up in. This is crap. You know, Bobby Knight got to strangle people for like years before he ever got booted. So
throwing chairs and shit.
yeah, I mean, come on now.
The man was sick, but he was a great coach.
A great coach. And what's crazy is like the girls that like my dad coached absolutely love him. Like they'll contact him all the time to like let him know about their successes in life and everything, and they thank him all the time for it. Yeah. And the same thing when you watch that the Bobby Knight and you hear people like Isaiah Thomas and so forth who obviously played underneath him, they're so grateful for the lessons that he taught them. Now, yeah. Did he go overboard? Absolutely. Could that happen nowadays? No, because I mean, we live in a very soft society nowadays, even within golf. That's why we've got the Unfiltered podcast, Bobby, because guess what? You know what I was thinking about? Pull hook is a mishit, right? Like everybody hits a mishit. The pros hit mishits all the time. This is a game of fucking misses. This is not a game of perfection. So our show, being unfiltered, and us talking, and sometimes, you know what, we mishit. It's just life, and that's what golf is. And it's a great kind of resemblance of life is the game of golf. And I don't want to go on to Instagram, for instance, and just see everybody's perfect shot or like them play a hole perfectly. I want to see some of the shit. I want to see somebody topping the shit out of it, hitting somebody else. Like that's the type of stuff that gets me going, man.
You got me fired up because I was reading some stuff. After I dropped the kids off from school, I'm like Twitter and social media, you know, 58 years old. What a super parent I am doing that shit. But the LIV stuff was, you know, all of them came out and they were all released. And I fired a couple of things. I was fighting with some dudes on Twitter for like about 20 or 25 minutes. And I'm walking around the kitchen and I'm talking to myself, right? I'm like, this fucking stupid fuck doesn't know what he's fucking talking about, blah, blah, blah. But I was commenting on one of the, we'll talk about it, but I was commenting on one of the players that left, and I was.
Oh, let's get into it, Bobby.
It's
LIV golf time.
This is mishit LIV.
This is mishit LIV because I mean, gosh, man. So the guys who turned down the temptation, let's give them a round of applause. We got Mito Pereira. Good job, Mito. Cameron Young.
Cameron Young. Shout out to Cam Young, and a biggest shout out to
Hideki Matsuyama. Turns down. Did you hear the reported fucking amount of money he turned it down? The hell is he thinking?
He probably has that in logos from Japan.
He probably does. He probably got that right after the Masters victory.
Do you know
Sorry,
I think
go ahead.
He practices down at Heathrow in Orlando, and Sean Foley was telling me the story a couple of years ago, talking about his practice routine, and you know, nobody knows, but he has I think he has a daughter, he has a little baby at home, and that kind of stuff, you know. And he was talking about Hideki's practice routine, how he always ended the day within 45 minutes to an hour of 4-irons. For some reason. How's that for dedication? But Sean would crack me up because he's like, yeah, he's got a kid, nobody knows about it, and he drives a minivan around. Just the most normal, average Japanese guy at Heathrow down in the Orlando area. So,
but Bobby, we thought he was going. We thought he was gone. Yeah, he turned the corner.
Yeah, but we turned the reins back on that last week.
We did. We tried to reel him in.
We took a hold of the horse right there. You know, he's got. Do you know, endorsement wise? I mean, you're like, oh, Ricky Fowler is probably the king of the endorsements, and you would think that this Hideki could be 10 times as much as Ricky a year in Japan with all of his stuff that he does. I mean, he could make well over $100 million. I would love to find that out, see if we can find that out exactly what he makes.
I'll do some digging.
but him not going is the biggest breath of
Yeah,
fresh air to me, because that Japanese media is so big and they have so much money, and you would have
that's a
guaranteed
huge
there were,
market.
yeah, well, huge market, and there would have been some kind of TV deal would have came out of it. There would have been some kind of TV deal. So
You
hats
know
off to,
what? Good point on the TV deal because they still don't have one.
right.
And it doesn't first, like, nobody's kind of talking about them even like having anything in the works whatsoever. It's going to continue being on YouTube. And from there, but let's go to the guys who
Now
actually, you know
let's go
what?
to
I'm
the
not
list.
even that excited about the guys who jump ship. HV3, Harold Varner III. I'm
Oh,
disappointed because he's my Jordan
uh,
guy. He was representing a community, but he was honest about it. He's like, listen, this is a lot of money for somebody like me, and
he's got a lot of money already.
I know it's disappointing to see, but he was a little bit honest about it. I feel anyways that he was kind of being genuine in regards to why he ended up making that move. He's like, it was just a financial decision. It was too much
Yeah.
to pass up, and I get that. But let's talk about the replacement players.
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves is back playing football again for LIV Golf. We've got Audubon Lahiri, we've got Cameron Tringali, and they've obviously were replacing the three guys we mentioned because they couldn't get to the full seven, which Mito Pereira, Cameron Young, and Hideki Matsuyama all stayed, and then we get the replacement players with Audubon Lahiri, Cameron
Well,
Tringali. I just started laughing when I saw it, Bobby.
Well, because I don't like. I mean, Audubon's a nice guy, and we're cordial to each other, and but I told you he's like a two-stroke penalty over 2 days to get paired with. He's slow as shit. He likes to talk about everything. He likes to talk after he hits a shot and describe it, and it's not the good shots he's talking about. So you're like, why is he talking shit about being hit in this 50 yards right, or the wind's not doing what it's supposed to do before another player gets up there? I mean, I don't did I went on my rant about him
You
after
did.
he's slow as shit. And let me just tell you something. He came over here some years ago. I'm gonna say in like 2016-ish or something like that, and he did well his first year over here. But he's an average player.
See ya.
Yeah, no harm, no foul. And listen, let me ask you this: if the only thing he's done in the last 3 or 4 years is finish
Nothing.
second at the Players. And if he didn't have that Yahtzee run at the Players, would he have ended up going to LIV? And if so much that Yahtzee run, how much do you think a guy like Audubon or Cam Tringali is getting? Are they getting
I hope they got
Pat
more than
Perez?
10. I hope they got.
Yeah,
Well, actually, hang on a second. Pat Perez has a name, right? To where, like, even though
yeah,
he's not at the prime of his career and he's been
yeah,
doing it for a very long time,
yeah.
I would say that he's more of a draw than Lahiri or
Well,
Tringali. And I'd be
let me
pissed
just
if
say
I
this.
was him and those guys got the same amount of money I did.
Nobody in this United States of America is going to get in a car and say, let's go to the golf tournament and watch Cam Tringali play Audubon Lahiri. Hey, I hate to say it, but nobody's going to do that for Harold Varner, And honestly, I'm going to go on a little rant about Harold, and I shouldn't in 2022 with all the bullshit and all the tragedies that's happening to the Afro-American society. It's horrible. But I've seen the evolution of HV as a rookie coming up and that kind of stuff. And
Yeah, you've seen it firsthand.
yeah, and he's just got a little hot shit, kind of, so to speak, and he played really great at Hilton Head this year. We played with him when he went crazy low on Saturday and he made the game look easy, but I'm also inside the ropes and I hear comments, and I hear comments about that certain players make to volunteers standing in the wrong spot or this or that. And they always seem to make it when something bad has happened to them in their golf game. So, and I'm not a big fan of that shit. To tell you. I mean, I've early years, honest engine, just throwing it out there. I probably had a bad day and got a little bitter with the volunteers, on Sunday, still standing behind a player, holding the sign directly behind him. And it's like, dude, come on, man. It's Sunday now. PGA Tour needs to hire somebody to do volunteer training. But as you get older, you're like, man, this is the same guy that's been on this tee for the last 11 years I've been there. And you smile at him and you talk to him and you recognize him and you go, and sometimes you go home and you go, man, those guys are out there for 12 hours a day. Right? They're out there. They're not getting paid. I think they pay for their shirt and their jacket and stuff like that. And it's like a privilege, and it's like a big thing for most of them are retirees, even though we do have like a traveling tour of them. I noticed that come to every single event, that's for sure. But I don't know. It's just Harold's Harold,
Well, when it happens
Harold
more
has a
often
fun, he
and
has a lot
people
on the
start
PGA
talking,
Tour, bro.
I know, and
You
that's
know?
where he was kind of peaking. Like I feel like his well, I don't.
Consistent. He's been super consistent
He
the
has
last
been
couple years.
consistent. His
Yeah.
golf swing is suspect. It's not the
It's
like.
skanky looking.
Yeah,
Hey,
but
listen,
it's not just the look, because here's the thing. Scottie Scheffler has obviously the thing that he does with his foot, and I think everybody has something. Like everybody's swing is like their fingerprint, right?
yeah.
Within golf, everybody's swing is different, so I don't take that. But fundamentally, looking at Harold's swing, like I think he has exceeded expectations for his own golf swing. To be honest with you.
Well said. I couldn't have said that better myself. That was a polite way of not calling him an overachiever, I guess. Because I'm going to tell you, here's a weird comparison that people are going to laugh at. Grayson Murray spent a little time at Eastern Carolina before he left or got booted. Okay. So they played together. If I went to the driving range with you tomorrow and I put Grayson Murray in one slot hitting balls and Harold Varner in the next slot hitting balls, and I would go, who's the star here? Who's going to make the most money on the PGA Tour? You wouldn't even fucking hesitate when you heard the sound and watched the action of Grayson Murray. And then you went to Harold Varner and you're like, how long is he going to be on tour? So kudos to him. He's got a ton of game. It doesn't look great. I've stood really close to him when things are firing all cylinders, and I've stood close to him when they aren't. And when they are firing on all cylinders, he just likes any normal guy. Fuck, he hasn't won out there, man. It's no big deal. You know what the big deal is? Is that Harold Varner stands for something these days on the PGA Tour in 2022, and that place behind you, Eastlake, and their first tee, and their Atlanta-based crew of getting help to some of these kids that are born in unfortunate circumstances,
Yeah, in rougher communities. I mean, they're not as privileged.
He could have taken that and run with it and done. I know he does a lot of good with the HV3 Foundation and putting up junior tournaments, and I know he's investing, and I know he's a giver, and I'm talking shit, but a mediocre golfer to me when they change and turn.
But maybe that's why he decided to take the jump. Maybe he saw that, shit, man, I just played the best golf of my life this year.
Yep.
I need to cash in because I don't know how long this is going to last. And that was actually a thought that kind of ran through my head earlier today as I was thinking about it. I'm like, how easy is it to lose your golf swing and lose your game completely? We've seen it with Ricky Fowler. Jordan Spieth went through that entire dip down. So like having multi-year guaranteed money isn't necessarily the worst thing to go jump to. And if you're not confident in your game, like LIV Golf is a great spot to go jump to because it might be a draw out of your earnings, but who knows like what that setup is for him. Because who was it, by the way, Bobby? You mentioned this on one of the previous episodes that one of the guys was like, "Oh, that's not my contract."
That was Harold.
I thought so. I just didn't want to presume. I couldn't remember.
What do you think a guy like Harold Varner gets? Is he 20 to 30 million? Has to be, right? He's made a little under 11 million in his career.
Well, you've seen the guys from Eastside Golf, right? They've partnered up with Nike a lot, done some collaborations.
You know how expensive those Jordan 4s go for that they do. Those things are like $2,000.
Yeah, no, they're super expensive, and it's kind of sad because the market that they're trying to hit, those kids can't afford that. Yeah, so it's like, what's the point of this? But they're building a brand, and like with him by their side,
is he a piece of that?
He's been wearing their clothes as far like part of the Jordan brand. No, he does, but that's where. But they do a lot of collaborations with Jordan, and Harold Varner III was their guy that he was doing a lot of stuff with these. I don't know if he had a deal with them or whatnot, but obviously he was. I mean, there was a lot of collaboration going on there between Eastside Golf and HV3, and it's just kind of sad to see him go. But the other one that I'm sad is Joaquin. Because we won't see his true potential.
Well, I mean,
or back injury.
Let's get to the big three, excuse me, because all three of them have one thing in common. Well, two things in common. They're studs on the golf course, and they're the three of the most polite, coolest individuals you could possibly run into. Joaquin's a little more quiet. Obviously, he's not super confident in his English, but he's respectful and he carries a conversation and he looks you in the eye. And Leash has been
great
a beast.
dude. Yeah.
Come on, man. Mows his own lawn, has his own beer. What else do you need to say? You know, and when he gets it going, it's a thing of beauty. He makes the game of golf look so easy. And he's got a great sense of humor. And he's just, you know, Cam is like Leash's little brother pretty much out there. He is always had they're basically inseparable. Their caddies are inseparable. They all run together. The four of them rent houses together at big tournaments and not so big tournaments, you know, so they're one big happy family. And it's but I'm going to say one thing too. Am I overstepping my boundaries by saying, are you going to get in a car with your guys if you're 2 hours away and go, let's go watch Waco Neiman play today, or let's go watch Mark Leishman play today? Maybe you're not even going to say that about Cam Smith, but you know,
Cam, I would.
Yeah,
just because
okay,
I love his
yeah,
the fluidity of his golf swing is so pure, and then the same thing with his putting stroke. And you can tell, like, when he gets out of rhythm, that's when he loses his golf swing.
That doesn't happen very often. But
it doesn't.
You know, I'll touch on this. He's 29 years old now, and they are obviously throwing him easily $100 million. Oh,
at least.
You know? And I liked his answer when he said it was a tough decision, but it was a business decision, you know? And I think the same thing with Waco too. I told you, I heard through the grapevine that Waco's like, I'm not going, you know, and then they put another 10 million up. And then it's this field in Boston, Matt, quite simply is the best field money can buy.
Yeah.
And that's how it is. And I don't see it getting any better. I think they're at their pinnacle. You know, would I get in a car and drive 2 hours if I didn't know anything, you know, if I was just a golf fan and go watch Dustin Johnson play? Fuck yeah, I would, because there's nobody funner to watch play golf than Dustin Johnson. Would I get in a car to go watch Scottie Scheffler play? Yeah, I would. To go watch Xander play? Yeah, I would. Most importantly, would I get in a car to go watch John Rahm play? Yeah, I would. I would for sure, you know. Oh, let's go watch Rory play. He's only an hour and a half away. Yeah, Cantlay. Very vanilla, but I mean, what a stud, you know. You can make a case for him too. JT, the list goes on and on and on. So we're still in a good position.
Bobby, I heard a great comment, and you're going to appreciate this, from Dan Patrick on the Dan Patrick Show. And Dan Patrick put it this way. He goes, listen, the PGA Tour is just like the NBA or the Major League Baseball. And I even relate it to the UFC even more so, because the UFC just runs through fighters, right? That's not a sport to where you last a long period of time. But he goes, with those guys going, the PGA Tour can just build up the next guys that they want to highlight, and then you're going to forget about those other guys. It was a very good comment that I'm like, you know what, that is spot on, because the UFC does it all the time. Like when they lost Ronda Rousey and she ended up getting knocked out by Holly Holmes, and then she came back and got smoked by Nunez, all of a sudden she's off. And everybody's like, oh no, what's going to happen? Conor McGregor, he loses a couple, right? Gets knocked out, then breaks his leg. He's been out of it for how long? And yet the UFC is still thriving because they build up the next person. All of a sudden, there's Israel Adesanya. There's there's a Kazmat who's going to be fighting against Diaz. It's like you've got a lot of these guys that are coming up that they just have to put promotional dollars in order to build up their name. And that's what they're doing with a guy like Cam Young. Cam Young made one of the smartest decisions of not going, because the PGA Tour, like, he comes from a family in the Northeast Sleepy Hollow. Dad is, if I know this correctly, is a PGA professional. Yes. Yeah. And just like with JT, Justin Thomas, like, they're going to do the same thing they did for JT with him, and they're going to boost him right up, and he's going to start to become one of the faces of the PGA Tour. But that's where, like, the PGA Tour is in no risk anymore, and now that the guys have gone over and, like, that tour is set, until they get a TV deal, they're really not going to be able to compete with them from a media standpoint, and it's going to be very interesting to see how everything plays out.
Well, for the most part, I could categorize it like this. There's the legacy tour, and then there's the non-legacy tour, right? Because everybody on the PGA Tour, especially the ones that you were talking about right there, Yeah, they want to kick everybody's ass and win on the golf course and be the best player in the world. But it's about the legacy with these guys, with the deep rooted roots of golf. And then the other guys on the other side, I'll leave Cam Smith out of it just for now because he's such a cool dude. But, do you think DJ, excuse me, or Koepka or DeChambeau or Patrick Reed ever thought about their legacy or what they were going to lead the game? Fuck no. They were in it. They're always in it for themselves, and they're very, professional athletes, I get it, have to be selfish a lot, but they're very
Bobby,
over the top selfish.
Let's put it this way.
Sugarcoating that?
No, well, you are a little bit. Let's put it this way. It is the Lifestyle Celebrity Tour, right?
Yes,
it's the look at me.
Fan, yeah.
I love it because I've been calling it since this whole thing was even announced. I'm like, oh, that's a lifestyle tour. Like that's where guys are gonna go run off into the sunset, or that's where guys are gonna go if they want a celebrity lifestyle. It's like, and Cam Smith, believe it or not, even though he's a humble guy and everything, he drives a Lamborghini. Like, this guy is not, like, he likes nice things. He's a lifestyle guy, and he even said it today that I was like, all right, that makes a ton of sense. Like, yes, he lives in Florida, but he wants to be in Australia, which is very tough when you're playing on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I get it, man. And $100 million. And remember, I was bagging on some of the young guys, like never going through the journey. Well, there's not going to be any young guys going to be recruited to this whatsoever with all these veterans that have had solid careers coming in whatsoever. They already bumped the one kid, Puig, right? The kid from the one that's an amateur from Arizona State that's a really good player. They already bumped him. What else was I reading? Justin Harding has been like a world-class player for years now. And they were comparing his stats to somebody else. Maybe it was Chase Koepka, go figure, and just like, how does Justin Harding get booted when he's a world-class player and he's better than 15 of the guys in the field for sure, just on paper alone. I was talking to a LIV Caddie yesterday on the phone. I'm not going to mention his name, and he was talking about how they're treated, and they're treated great. There's no doubt about it. They get their little backpack and that kind of stuff. But he said the best thing, I don't know if it was Tuesday or Wednesday night, he goes, we got the hooker dinner. And I go, what's the hooker dinner? He goes, that's when the players bring the he goes, we got all the booze we want. We get to check out the hooker dinner. And I'm like, oh my God, I never thought we were missing out on anything on the PGA Tour. We used to just get seen during the daytime.
It just seems fitting with Pull Hook, with the hookers and hooking. And
the hooker dinner is either tonight or tomorrow night. So, Bob, after those kids go to school, I am opening this math book here, and I'm going to check out exactly what was born from the two biggest hookers, Paulina and Perez's wife, and see exactly, how the competition went between the two of those. Anyways, that's my shit talk for there. Cam Smith, all the power to you, brother. He made the journey, right? Cam Smith didn't just show up overnight. He's been battling here for 6 or 7 years. Came on the map, I think, at maybe Erin Hills and finished 3rd or 4th.
The dude lost a shit ton of weight too. You look at some of those old photos. He was heavy, man. He had a belly and everything.
Well, he was never heavy when he was over here. You must have been were those like old Aussie photos?
Yeah, like he was a big boy, man.
Yeah,
he was probably pushing close to 2.
You know what I'm bummed about? Like, there's cool caddies that are going too. Like his caddy Pinner, Sam Pinner, is just, if you see him, I don't care how much money he's made, but you see him on a Monday morning or Tuesday morning before Cam gets in town, he's fucking walking the golf course, right? And he goes 100 miles an hour, and you're like, this dude is the biggest meth head on the fucking planet. Look at him. And I've had players go, is he on something? And I'm like, yeah, I think he's on Chase's financial thing on his phone right now, trying exactly how to move is that 580,000 he just ripped for last week. So, and Leishman's caddy is a cool caddy. Yaako's caddy, Gary, they call him the animal for a reason. He's kind of a legendary caddy. Harold Varner's caddy is a European guy named Ricey, and the big joke on him from all the European guys is Ricey's the one caddy. He's about 5'5", looks like he's won 3 Kentucky Derbies, right? Goes way over $130. Got a smile on his face all the time, but they call him Camera Ricey because he loves being on camera, right? So every time you get paired with him, one of the Euros, like Tommy Fleetwood's guy, Big Finno will come up to you and you go, "Did you get the?" He can't even understand what he said. He goes, "These are those racy fun and Kevin around the green and everything, right?" And I'm like, "Man, I did notice that." And he goes, "Oh, he loves himself, huh? He loves himself." And Ricey was standing right there, and they'll start wrestling with each other. So some cool guys are going. Anibans Lahiri is a kind of inexperienced guy that's a little bit nervous out there, and that's a perfect match for Anibans, a dickhead, quirky player and a nervous caddy. And then who knows who Cam Tringali has, because he got rid of Joel Stock, and then Joel Stock picked up that bag. Maybe you've heard about it.
That's right. Yeah.
Made himself a quick 270 grand. And I might have fired when Cam Tringali posted something like on his Twitter or something like that. I go, what did I say? I go, "I want to personally thank you from Joel Stock," or something like that. Just some little coffee remark that I had to make. So, you know what I was thinking, daydreaming today? I'm like, I wonder why Cam Tringali really fired Joel Stock, because he's like an upper echelon caddy. And then somebody told me that they heard that Cam brought his brother on the bag. So do you think, here's my theory. Do you think that he knew he was going to live? He probably did a month ago. And he's like, "I'm not paying," I'm going to say this the wrong way, "I'm not paying Joel Stock all of that money this given month. I'm going to bring my brother in, a la Dustin Johnson and Austin Johnson."
Yep.
Kind of thing. That's a conspiracy theory right there.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. That's for sure. What do you want to talk about next? This TGL thing?
Yeah, TGL. I mean,
I know nothing about it. Wait, can I open up? Yeah. I know this. I know it's some virtual thing with, is it 18 tour players that play matches on Monday, and it's virtual hitting shots on a golf course, on a real golf course, but the short game is actually in a stadium or something?
Yes. Well, no. So they're hitting full shots into a golf simulator. So in the industry, this concept has been around for probably 7 years or so. And one of the main guys around it is a guy named Dave Schultz, who he founded a company called NextLinks. And NextLinks is very much so where you hit your golf shot, whatever a full swing, you're hitting into a golf simulator. And you're seeing the results of that. And because golf simulators have become so advanced, and now you've got the TrackMans of the world that are so accurate that, it's just like playing real golf. All of a sudden, once you get too close by the green, whether you're in a bunker, or chipping, or putting, that's where you bring that into real life. And then basically a laser points down to where you need to place your ball. And then that is basically the replica of the course that you're playing. So they're going to do this in a stadium format. But what is amazing is that Dave Schultz did this in 2000, or he filed way before this, but got the patent in 2018 for this mixed reality setup for golf. And if you look at his renderings compared to what they did for TGL, it's scary as far as like how close it is to what his renderings were and everything for it, and what he got the patent around. So Dave, he is has said on social media platforms and so forth that he's not necessarily looking to go after the PGA Tour or anything. He's excited about the growth of the game, and this being that it comes from his idea and everything, and he's very excited about it. But this is something that, being in golf technology previously, we kind of dreamed about this opportunity of having some type of setup like this. And Tiger has an investment into the old company that I used to work for. And I don't know if they're using their technology or not. I don't know if they're ready for that. But long story short, if they do this, are they going to run into a potential patent infringement if Dave does? I told Dave, I mentioned to him on social media, I was like, looks like it's time to get paid, Dave. Time to get paid.
You know how the PGA Tour operates sometimes. There'll be a fat check and his name removed from everything. I've got a couple questions. Yeah. Are there going to be people?
Yeah, so it's going to be in a stadium setup. So you're going to have fans in just like you're at a baseball stadium.
Night, it's on Monday nights.
You're going to have a huge screen, huge screen, almost like you're at a concert and watching like from a distance and seeing them on the Jumbotron or like a huge screen. And that's what they're going to hit into.
And it's a league. It's a 3-against-3 thing. I heard. So the players are going to be there on Monday nights in this stadium
Exactly.
or whatever. Okay, here's a big question. Are there going to be purses, for these
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
eight?
that might go back to James Hahn's point around you're only catering to the top 20 guys on the tour.
Yeah,
And yes, this one in particular, it's just for the top 18 guys. It would be
interesting.
cool to see, you know, more of like the live setup, but live definitely was the influence around this and kind of forced their hand to
I
kind of
read
make
that.
this happen.
I thought I read that Rory and Tiger have been John about this for a couple of years,
Oh,
though.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
know.
that's always going to be the story that comes out, right? Until we hear it directly from Rory and Tiger and can look them in the eye and go, are you telling the truth or not?
Well, that's true. You could certainly say that about Greg Norman and company, couldn't you?
Oh, absolutely.
Hey, I got a sneaking suspicion alcohol is going to be served
Oh,
at
yeah.
these things.
It's going to be rowdy.
So it's a mini number 16 at Scottsdale
I would
atmosphere.
rather see that, Bobby, to be
Yeah.
completely
Well,
honest with
you got to
you.
smell the grass and touch the grass and feel the wind. And, maybe it's just like a little hors d'oeuvre before the real tournament starts on Thursday, possible. But it sounds exciting. Man, weird shit's going on in golf right now. Not just the live thing, but like technology and everything like that. I mean, 58 years old, you put on the spikes and you went out and played, and now it's totally different, right? Simulator, TrackMan, quads, all this kind of stuff.
Well,
Good
Bobby,
news
if
good news for your age group, my man.
if there was if there was a golf simulator league, which I know TrackMan tried to do
Mhm.
and it didn't really turn out that great and so
Right.
forth, they kind of canned that one, or at least I haven't seen anything since they kind of launched it with like some European pros. They tried to get into there and kind of do the same type of setup and didn't really work out. It wasn't all that interesting because the guys were kind of boring, if I have to be completely honest. Like there was no emotion behind what they
Yeah.
were doing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, if there was a league around that, I swear, Bobby, that would be my calling because my God, I cannot putt. And this is what sucks about the mixed reality part to it. So you actually have to go and putt on the green. But I
Yeah.
feel like if I could map out like one green and just memorize it, I'd be okay. But and simulator golf, normally you get like those gimmies that it's like 8 feet and in.
Yeah.
And my God, am I just a stud on that?
Oh,
I
geez.
can I can play on that all day long, Bobby, and I can go out there. I mean, even right now, I go into the simulator that I've got, and
Yeah.
it
Repetition.
it might be what they're going to be playing on in this more steroid version of what I have, but. I go in, man, and I shoot 64, 65 consistently. You know, I've got
Well,
my favorite course on there, Aviara,
yeah.
out in
Oh,
your
well,
neck of
there
the
you go.
woods. Yeah.
I had a bad hangover there once in that hotel. Very, very bad hangover. Almost got in a car and drove at 3 a.m. and said I
Oh no,
laid down
thank
for
God you didn't.
instead I laid down for the $600 for one night of 6 hours sleep. She was hot though. Hey, you know what this TGL thing sounds like to me? When I'm 90 years old and I'm laying in a bed in my nursing home, I'm going to turn on the Ocho and it's
The
going to be
Ocho.
on. It's going to be
Oh
televised.
my God.
What else you
Uh,
got? You got
that
anything else?
that's about it, Bobby. I mean, we covered a lot of the dirt. I guess
Yeah.
the only other thing that we could even potentially bring up at this point
Yes.
is the President's Cup and what's going to happen
Ooh.
there. I know it wasn't on our show notes. I didn't really go
I'm
into
just trying to
it,
get
but
tickets.
I
Only three
know.
hours from me. I've worked in three of those President's Cups, and I texted Bigwig with the PGA Tour yesterday. I don't want to mention his name, Phil Marburger, and
I
and
love it when you do that.
Phil Marburger, player rep liaison. And he is the PGA Tour owns this President's Cup thing, right? So they take two of their brass, two of the younger guys that are like player reps. Basically, what I mean by player liaison is the PGA Tour every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and all week when we're at a tour event has reps there, right? So
Yep.
they drive around in a car, they ask the players how the course is, how things are going, they keep them updated during practice rounds on certain meetings or what this movement or that, and possibly some discipline stuff. So they take two of these guys and they put them on each side, Marburger and I forget who the other one. Ericsson Balsita are the captains of the international, and then a couple people that I don't know are the are the captains of the American team. So anyways, my point is I got off track. I text Marburger and I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about bringing my boys up for, the President's Cup. And the first thing I'm thinking is like, oh my God, I'm from the United States, but my heart is rooting for the internationals because I worked one with Siwoo and it was just so cool. So I'm like, hey, can I get tickets and that kind of stuff? And I'm like, now I'm watching the clock, right? And I'm like, of course, at the end of the message, I said, I know you're busy. So an hour goes by, 2 hours, 3, 4, 5 hours. And I'm like, this fucker, God, hit me up, Marburger, hit me up.
Did he?
Yeah. So I got some fresh ass lobster at Costco. Don't ever do it. They were huge and there was only $60. My stomach's jacked. So he texted me back while I was boiling my lobster and he's like, hey, got your message. Hit me back closer to tournament week and I'll see what I got.
Oh, no, you got the cold shoulder on that one.
FedEx Cup.
Wow. See, and I was going to ask you for Waste Management because that's now going to be the 5th major.
Oh, Waste Management. I can give you as many as you want. Just don't ask me for no bird's nest shit. Those go quick for all the players. Posses. Those Korean players get bombarded. You got Koreans in Scottsdale? It's unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
I tried to get a couple from some of my Korean guys. They're like, oh, no, giveaway already. Yeah,
no, they love it during the winter. They come into Scottsdale and they go to all the spas and get the spa treatments. And
so my point with Marburger is once a caddy, always a caddy.
Yeah.
By the way, a caddy Marburger made $1.8 million last week. I know that better than your salary, pal.
There you go.
All right. Well, you know what we got this week? Korn Ferry Tour Championship.
I'm going to be watching it, Bobby.
Yeah, and then I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna be diving in on that LIV leaderboard to see what's happening, and I hope some long shot hits it. Can we get rid of Chase Koepka already? I mean, he's never gonna go. How is it to be Chase Koepka and go, man, I'm a decent mini tour player. I can make a cut on the Korn Ferry Tour every once in a while, and my brother's Brooks Koepka, and I'm allowed to play here. You think he feels awkward walking on the range?
You got to feel like you just don't belong. Like, I wouldn't feel like I belonged if I was out there. Like, if you sign me up right now, I'd be like, oh boy, I'm about to go out and shoot 76. I got 75 and 75 between 75 to 77 right now. I got it on lock.
So we got some stuff going on. I'm thinking, I said we were going to do it this week. But I'm thinking about bringing my oldest son on to give his experience, and hopefully it's going to be a good one. But the maximum I can take of him is 20 to 30 minutes. I can't take his ass for an hour and 20 minutes. I'm going to start yelling and screaming at him. And
Bobby, should we do one of those like ESPN style interviews to where we bring him on for like 10 minutes and then we continue the show afterwards?
Yeah, as long as you give me a mute button that I can press when he starts saying some stupid shit.
And then, I mean, are we going to have a LIV caddy on at some point?
Yeah, we're going to get him. I mean, one guy in Monaco that I was telling you about, well, I'm just going to tell you, it was Gareth Lordy, my favorite guy of Henrik Stenson. And he told me in so many words that maybe somebody in the LIV Corporation told him it probably wasn't a good idea to do stuff like that and divulge company secrets. I don't know, but I have a couple other feelers out there. So I'm not going to make any promises because I don't want to break anybody's heart, but if anybody can get it done, bro, I can.
It's Bobby Brown, baby. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. We're an unfiltered podcast. He doesn't have to share if he doesn't want to. It's just we ask very good questions.
Yeah, first he told me, he's like, oh, I don't like doing interviews and everything like that. I go, you never shut up a fucking day in your life. You're always chitter chatter. Anyways, we got a couple things coming up in golf, and then we'll get right back after it next week.
I love it, Bobby. Cheers, buddy. Right, buddy. I appreciate you.
All right, man.
Thanks again.
Have a great night.
You as well. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to Season 2 of the Pull Hook Golf Podcast. Make sure to hit subscribe and go to www.pullhookgolf.com for more